The Equality Coalition is not a radical organization, and we're not radical by intent. We're not out to try to kick down an existing power structure. We believe that working inside the same system that every other citizen in this nation works inside is the best way to achieve equality for everybody. Well, we want to persuade our legislators, both senators and state representatives, to support amending Kansas' current non-discrimination statutes to include sexual orientation and gender identity.
Today we're talking about the Bill 169.
Oh, okay.
And it is, of course, about the expanding the acts against discrimination.
Okay,
yeah. And we were hoping that we might be able to count on your vote.
Well, I haven't seen the bill. I noticed it had a $100,000 price tag to it.
That's an inflated number by the head of the Kansas Human Relations Commission, who, I'm sorry, is not really a friend of the gay community.
Okay.
And what he's doing is using numbers extrapolated from California.
Until 2004, my partner and I were busy raising our daughter. I was working part-time as a database developer and network engineer. But when they started running the ban on marriage equality here in Kansas, it felt pretty personal. That was absolutely the catalyst. I would probably still be doing what I was doing 6 years ago if it hadn't been for that. Well, I came out when I was in high school in a factory town here in the Midwest. It was an incredibly unpleasant experience. There was physical violence. And I will say that things have gotten better for today's youth.
Each one of us has certain beliefs, and we must be ready to take punishment for that. But to change everybody's laws so that everybody conforms to my belief, that is unrealistic.
To force people that are perfectly content with our gender to be extremely uncomfortable or acceptant of their confusion is morally and ethically wrong.
God created Eve. And I believe it's wrong to force the whole to accommodate those that choose to be something that they were not born to be.
I think simply, and I would like to represent simple thinking people. One thing that is simple to me is that everyone is born male or female.
I'd like to go back to what makes this very simple. I hope it indicates how complex we have made something that should not be what it is, complex.
So we basically have gone a century and a half with no documented case in this city of any discrimination based on transgender, transsexual, transvestite, cross-dressing, genderqueer. The list goes on and on.
My name is Kate Letchworth, and I am transgender. I have been living in Lawrence for 12 years. When I started physically transitioning 3.5 years ago, I'd been working for the same company for 2 years, so everybody knew about my gender status. Unfortunately, not everyone was accepting. When I initially came out to my boss, I was told that if any problems arose, they would be handled in a professional and expedient manner, except that's not really what happened. After I received physical threats from a coworker, I went to the management team and asked for them to help me facilitate the education of my fellow employees on gender variance and diversity tolerance. What I was told, though, was that it was basically him or me. They could fire him or I could quit. There was no middle ground. By this time, I'd been with the company for 5 years and was making good money, so I didn't want to quit. And since I didn't think this person's ignorance and intolerance meant he deserved to lose his job in the middle of a recession, I was forced to put up with his harassment on a daily basis. The anxiety this caused was unbearable. I had panic attacks before every shift, and sometimes at work, which is why I eventually did quit. I now work on campus for much less money, where there is a non-discrimination policy which protects my right to express my gender in a way that I see fit. I've also experienced harassment at DECA, the Douglas County Citizens Committee on Alcoholism. I, like many transgender and queer people, struggle with addiction. And attempting to get help for my problems, the first place I went to was DECA, since they charge on the sliding scale. One day I walked in wearing pigtails and was harassed by some of the other clients. As if that wasn't bad enough, my counselor told me it was my fault, that I was putting myself in a position to get harassed. This is like blaming a rape victim for wearing revealing clothing. I did nothing wrong, yet I was the one who got talking to, not my harassers. I was going to a regularly scheduled meeting with my counselor, dressed in a manner that was not inappropriate, but different than what most people are used to, and was told that I asked for all the grief I got. Now, I realize that a bearded man wearing pigtails and daisy dukes isn't something you see in East Lawrence every day, and that, at the very least, I'm going to get some perplexed stares. But by no stretch of the imagination does this justify the way I was treated. Since DECA is the only sliding scale addiction counseling center I know of in Lawrence, I'm now forced to rely on impersonal books for combating addiction, and I'm sure I'm not the only queer in Lawrence with these issues. But when people have to quit good-paying jobs and forgo much-needed counseling because of hatred and bigotry, this is an indicator that changes need to be made. Please include gender presentation and identity in Lawrence's non-discrimination policy. At the very least, my mental health depends on it.
Yes.
So with that, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. All those in favor of reconsidering our previous decision signify by aye. 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 All those opposed with nay.
Nay.
And that's 4. So we, by majority decision, we will not reconsider this action.